In the Air Force fighter community, there is a coveted and rare marker painted near the cockpit of certain planes, just beneath the pilot's name, rank, and call sign. It's a 6-inch green star with a half-inch black border. But what does it signify? During World War II, frequent aerial combat combined with the sheer numbers of planes in the air at once led to dozens of pilots having to kill or be killed on any given day. The Army Air Corps and US Air Force have allowed pilots to mark their victories on their fuselages for decades. In that era of fierce fighting, the US Army Air Corps allowed most pilots to mark their aerial victories with a small replica of the enemy pilot's flag, placed beneath the pilot's name on the fuselage. This was typically either a decal or a bit of paint applied by the ground crew. There were also some cases of fighter groups painting the silhouettes of the planes they had shot down. One US pilot even boasted every Axis flag, as well as a single US flag on his cockpit. Yes, he shot down a US plane and got a medal for it. Click the link below to watch that video. But eventually, the use of flags, silhouettes, and some other markings fell out of favor when it came to aerial victories, though the Air Force does still allow bomber crews to use bomb silhouettes to mark their missions. But for fighter pilots, it's now all about the green star, standardized in Air Force Instruction 21205 as, quote, aerial victory marking. Fighter aircraft awarded a verified aerial victory are authorized to display a 6-inch green star with a half-inch black border located just below and centered on the pilot's name block. The type of aircraft shot down shall be stenciled inside the star in half-an-inch white lettering. For aircraft with multiple aerial victories, a star is authorized for each aircraft shot down. No other victory markings are authorized. In other words, it's for the air-to-air kill. Now, modern aerial victories are rare, not because the US loses, but because the Air Force dominates enemy airspace so hard and fast that typically only a handful of pilots will actually engage the enemy in the air before the US owns the airspace outright. In Desert Storm, about 30 US pilots achieved aerial kills in about 30 aircraft. Meanwhile, there are almost 2,000 fighter aircraft in the US inventory. So, yes, the green stars are very rare. So rare, the Air Wings occasionally brag about the green star aircraft that are still in their units. The 455th Air Expeditionary Wing History Department released an article in 2008 bragging that a green star aircraft from Desert Storm was then in active service over Afghanistan. The aircraft on display is the only F-15E to ever achieve an air-to-air kill, a feat it pulled off by bombing a helicopter as it took off, destroying the helicopter and the troops it had just dropped off. Check out our video about how it went down by clicking the link below.
It was the F-15E Strike Eagle's first and only air-to-air kill during Desert Storm that would become the most memorable.
In 2010, the 353rd Special Operations Group historian released an article about their F-15C with its own green star. The plane was used by a Marine pilot in an exchange program who shot down one of 2 MiG-29s attempting to attack an F-14 flying all alone and unafraid during Desert Storm. Of course, aerial victories are even rarer today. In 2017, the Navy claimed America's first air-to-air kill of an enemy aircraft since 1999. In other words, we've had only one aerial victory in almost 20 years. In the 2017 engagement, 2 US Navy FA-18E Super Hornets attacked a Syrian Su-22 fighter that was dropping bombs near forces friendly to the US. For anyone wondering how we invaded 2 countries at the start of the century without shooting down any enemy aircraft, Iraq lost most of its aircraft during Desert Storm in the following year, and Afghanistan had no real air force to speak of in 2001. Most aircraft destroyed in Syria were killed on the ground, so no green stars there. But victory markings aren't the only things painted on military aircraft. Let's not forget nose art. According to the Air Force Times, Brett Stoll, the curator at the National Museum of the US Air Force, said, quote, nose art was first conceived during World War I by French and German aviators who pioneered the application of personalized marking, insignia, and garish paint schemes for their combat aircraft, unquote. By World War II, the trend caught on in America, where pinup culture was in full swing. But lovely ladies weren't the only things painted on aircraft. Cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny were also popular. My grandfather flew a B-29 Mitchell called the Bedroom Commando, which depicted a nightgown-clad gentleman sneaking around on an, I'm sure, ungentlemanly mission. Today, nose art goes through a strict approval process. According to an Air Force memorandum from 2015, designs must be, quote, distinctive, symbolic, gender neutral, intended to enhance unit pride, and designed in good taste, unquote. There are some iconic paint schemes, like the tiger shark teeth on the 23rd Fighter Group's A-10s, but there's also a new trend popping up, colorful body art. To celebrate the Oregon Air National Guard's 75th anniversary, the 173rd Fighter Wing transformed an F-15 Eagle into, well, an eagle. The artists wanted something bold and they did it, taking 31 days to design and decorate the bird, which is currently on deployment in Finland. It's getting a lot of attention, but apparently the design is only temporary. This is another growing trend. In 2016, the USS Lexington Museum painted an F9F8 Cougar hot pink to honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But dishwashing liquid was applied to the latex paint, which allowed the aircraft to return to its normal shade of gray. You know what doesn't wash off though? Victory markings. Because pride lives forever.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
By the way, we've got merch now. Like this shirt? Like this shirt? What about this shirt? Check it out in the link below.